Hello everybody, I'm Mango Thunderslice, and today's video is Joy, how to find meaningful happiness in a world of miserable little wretches, right? Or fill in the blank as far as your pejorative of choice. But the point is that this world, it is very multi-spectrum, right? There's a lot of different realities going on for various different people. There are people in this world who find a lot of contentment and joy and happiness in each day and have found what I guess Jordan Peterson would call their optimal challenge, right? And then there are those who are just filled with hatred and misery, and again, at the same time that they're just like filled to the brim with just pure darkness and hatred. They're basically banning everyone for hate speech from the internet because they don't align with the new communist black cube cult religion of the Saturnalians, of just worshiping material equality at the expense of the existence of the spirit, right? Denying that God exists, denying that order exists, and just choosing that material reality because it's the only thing that you can see directly with your eyes, right? It's very interesting how much we, in this world of electronics and our, relative mastery of the electromagnetic spectrum. I say relative in regards to relative to the past, not relative to the future, right? Things are going to change a lot, but we've kind of built this whole world on electronics premised on just vibrating the ether in the form of different electromagnetic waves, wavelengths and amplitudes. And it's very interesting that people still have such a hard time with this concept that things that you can't see physically with your eyes are still real. They can be real. Not everything's, real, but even the things that we treat as not real, right? A unicorn, a dragon, right? It's funny because these things aren't real per se, but at the same time, I see unicorns everywhere. I see dragons everywhere, not physically, but in marketing, right? It's just interesting how we created these forms in our mind, and now we've formed such an affiliation with them, and now we're basically bringing them into the physical realm. I wouldn't be surprised to see them genetically engineer an actual unicorn, a few decades down the line, just because people are so crazy and gung-ho about their unicorns for whatever reason. And, for those who are so desperately attached to believing only what can be not just proven to themselves, but proven by an external third-party verified source, right? Nothing can be verified ultimately to the satisfaction of everyone. It is impossible, because even if you find a valid enough physical proof, right, people can always spin it, they can always find loopholes, they can always just deny it on its terms and not even analyze the results, right? People can use their own free will to twist and wrangle the truth and actual facts and data, to a massive degree. And so if you're waiting for everyone else to, if you're waiting for the truth to be proven to the satisfaction of everyone else, you will be waiting your entire life, because that is an impossible goal. And, you have to ultimately, if you want to have any sort of certainty or contentment in this physical world, you have to set the standards of what is good enough for you, right? What is enough proof for you, right? As they say, seeing is believing, and it's true that, when you do see something, it is easier to believe. And the flip side of that is that people can see things that are concocted and artificial, and then they can believe that is real, right? What is the media? It is exactly that. It is injecting these forms into people's into their psyche and their cognition, and affecting it as a result. There's low-level media, which isn't necessarily deliberate on that, or it's shallow in its intentions and its deliberate form. And then there's the completely overt, down to a science Bernaysian propaganda, which you see on pretty much all the mainstream media channels. the hypnosis techniques that take the mind out of its attentive state and put it into a suggestive state, right? What delta wave frequency or alpha wave? It's I forget which one, but there's. So yeah, you've got to set the standards of what is, satisfactory to you, to live by a code, right? Marcus Aurelius style, to really just set the terms of your own existence and be kind of the arbiter of your own judgment. And that entails, a lot of psychological groundwork, right? Again, of everything we've been talking about in the other videos, is that if you are not strong on a security level, if your body is not filled with energy and is able to respond to situations, there's no reason for you to feel happiness. You have no capacity. You are totally at the whim and subject to external, forces and vicissitudes of fate. And so it is fundamentally the deference of identity and thus judgment that defines the collectivist, right? That they don't feel that they are able to make decisions, that it's some expert, some external authority that should be rightfully making decisions. And so this is primarily the psychic difference between the right and the left on the political spectrum. It may have been different back in the Fifth World in the Piscean Age, but this is where things lie right now. We have those who are full-on collectivists, whether they are full-on commie, or just a progressive halfway communist, a pinko communist, or just a neoliberal, right? They all are shared in this common delusion that they do not exist on an identity level, and so they are not able to make these decisions. And so when information is presented to them, which is so blatant and obvious, disconfirming their worldview, they basically just close their eyes and just deny it, without even addressing it. And so on the other hand, people who do have the connection to the creator and have a self-identity, who are self-actualized and not negating themselves and trying to basically just waste away because it's too hard, they can't bear of being. They can't bear being because it takes agency, it takes responsibility. You don't get to just sit back in your cozy little, beanbag. When you have agency, you have a responsibility. And so, the false religions of the past and the present and the future basically institute that, that submission as well, and that lack of identity, that only God exists, that I do not exist. It's not true. The true religion, I am a fractal resonator with the Creator. I am created in the image of God. I have agency in line with free will given to me by my Creator, which separates me from the animals, and I have a responsibility to do good with that, or evil if I choose to. But really the whole reason that this sandbox was created, so it was to teach the individual agents to know the perspective of God and to know it as their own, and to have gone through the entire cycle and learn, and to not just believe, but to know that this is the correct way. And so there is meaningful happiness as distinct, from meaningless happiness. There's plenty of people in this world who have meaningless happiness, and it's funny because this is addressing really the latter part of the comment from one of our longtime subscribers in 2 videos ago, the one about the duo video about connection, friendship, and happiness. And he wasn't objecting to the part about friendship, connection, and happiness, but really taking aim at the aspect of belief that, God equals happiness, which is not necessarily what I claimed, basically. But when you are acting in alignment and resonance with that universal structure, and you see the results of your actions, you see the fruits of your labor just coming forth in glorious fashion, it is the ultimate source of joy, right? And the thing is, when you try and make things happen in the world, it is not all just, one smooth train to, from start to finish. A lot of times you won't even be moving forward, because when you have to figure things out, things break, and you've got to figure out what broke, and you've got to address the structural problem, and you've got to use the full capacity of your faculties, both left brain and right brain, to identify and solve that problem. And so, people who, are very creative, they're very happy when they succeed, and they're very unhappy when they don't succeed, and can get very frustrated, right? I can certainly get very, very frustrated when the things that I'm working on, the objects and the projects that I'm working on don't, conform to what I'm expecting of them and what I'm trying to get from them. And, so to have happiness is not to be without ups and downs. It's not to be this perfect, just yellow golden like state at all times, right? Again, maybe if you're the Buddha up in the ashram and you don't have to actually engage with the physical world, then yeah, you can be whatever state you want to be, and have no ups and downs at all, because you won't have to deal with anything. You'll have yes, absolved yourself of ego, and also absolved yourself of agency and identity and function and purpose and consequence in the world. Right? Buddhism is not the religion for the common, era at this point. Again, we are drawing from all the good things in the past, but primarily, the aspect of Christianity that makes it the most valid religion is that its emphasis on personal agency and identity. And that is very, very powerful. And that's why it's the white Christian countries that have actually produced the physical world, right, in terms of this world of technology. And the Maxwell and Tesla and Heaviside and Steinmetz, and they were from all different parts of the white Christian world, but they definitely all were beneficiaries and resonators within a structure that emphasized that universal accountability, of that universal creation and order, right? If you don't understand those underlying concepts, you won't proceed to, build a civilization. It won't have any meaning or purpose. So, we have to work in the world. And so you either work for nothing or you work for something, so you're going to choose. And so if you work for nothing, and you only choose to pursue purely superficial material happinesses, right? Drugs, media, alcohol, sex, all these things are not evil in and of themselves, but if you treat those material titillations as the highest form of happiness, you will never achieve happiness. And that is why all atheists are fundamentally unhappy, because they think they're reaching for the highest heights, and they're really barely reaching halfway up the lobby. There's many floors above that level of existence and cognition. And it's in those levels, once I transcended my atheism and acknowledged that universal structure is really the issue, and not this character that I am, this cartoon of a deity that I've been handed by, the cultural engineers who have planted these ideas in my head, right? We should never, disavow reality because of the Bible, but we also shouldn't, disavow the Bible because of some other new religion, right? Most of what we're calling science is just a new religion. When people say that we have to trust a computer model that basically is totally random and unfounded on any real data or actual variables that are in reality, then and it says 2.5 million people will die of COVID in the United States, and then it never happens, right? Is that science? Because that doesn't sound like science to me. And the same thing is true of the climate. Is it science to just have a computer model that spreads out the sunlight over the entire surface of the Earth as if it was a flat plane, and completely ignores the particle forcing of the sun and the subtle etheric components of the planet and the solar system? It's a fallacy. It's just a total fraud. It's a janky, pathetic excuse of a model. And ultimately, that same thing applies to the atheist conception of reality. It is a janky little pathetic model that does not incorporate any of the nuance of human experience. The paranormal, right? The spiritual experience, the near-death experience, the out-of-body experience, where people come into contact with spirits, angels and demons of various forms, of various levels and, frequencies. And is that all invalid because the atheists think so? Is the opinion of the atheist so weighty and authoritative that it can deny all of human existence and experience? I don't think so. I treat the human experience and existence as higher than the atheist's opinion. And my own experiences have, very much been, you see what you believe, see it, I'll believe it when I see it. Well, what happens when you dream something that is so real and it fundamentally changes your whole appreciation of reality? Is that a real experience? Nobody else saw it. Nobody else, I can't hold it in my hand, but it happened. I remember it. I remember it to this day. Several dreams that have, been very formative in the psychology that I have today and that I demonstrate in these videos. And this is not an act that I'm putting on. You know, I try and have these conversations with everybody. It's just that most people aren't willing to go there, so to speak. And so, you know, I adapt my form to the container in which I'm being water, as Bruce Lee would say. I'm adapting to my container. But, you know, and that's kind of, so happiness to me is not just always being this, you know, yellow happy days, right? You know, LA, maybe that's what Southern California is all about, is just a happy face on the outside, but really on the inside they're all miserable. Nobody actually likes living in LA, and people down there would vehemently disagree with me if they heard me saying that. They say, oh, LA is the best, man, and I give all these reasons why LA is the best. But, you know, unless you don't have to drive on the freeway, there's really nothing that's wonderful or great about LA. And it's just a cesspool of all sorts of just degeneracy and people pretending that they have happiness, when really it's just material titillation and a void inside, you know, because nobody has any structure or meaning or purpose in the greater society beyond that production of propaganda and the fulfillment of degeneracy, right? Drugs and materiality and, you know, superficial sexual encounters and all the rest. But again, it's all part of the learning experience. It was all supposed to happen, just like, you know, Sodom and Gomorrah, where, you know, they existed on Earth too, and then eventually the experiment was terminated. And, you know, I feel like San Francisco and LA at one, you know, point in time or another is kind of destined to be the new Sodom and Gomorrah and just collapse under the weight of their own denial and abrogation of reality, right? And that's happening now when they're literally releasing criminals and they've got zero bail, and the whole, like, they're letting violent criminals out on the street and claiming that it's a massive victory. And, you know, everybody knows about the poop on the streets and the homeless, drug-addled, crazy person problem. I mean, I was born in the Bay Area, and, you know, there's a part of me energetically that loves that city, but I could never, ever live there. I mean, until maybe after the divine wrath, maybe then I'll come back and buy up some cheap real estate in the Bay Area, and build my own mango tower to rival Trump Tower on the West Coast. So, you know, meaningful happiness is that which is tied to the great work, not just life and not just titillation, but engagement with this world and knowing that your actions will bear fruit, not just in this day, not just tomorrow, but for years and decades and, you know, ideally centuries and millennia to come. You know, again, with the fact that we know names like Socrates and Plato implies that immortality is a very real thing. You know, long after an individual ceases, you know, existing in their material form, their work can remain if it is that valuable and meaningful to the species and the members thereof. So what are you doing to participate in that great work? What are you doing to amplify your own resonance with the creator of the universe and to create things in perfect alignment with that structure? Things that are effective technologically, systems that are responsive, you know, socially, and, you know, businesses that are you know, engendering surpluses and abundance on an economic scale. We can do all of these things. We've already progressed so far as a civilization, but people, you know, it's the boiling frog, and they get used to it, and it's so easy to forget how good we have it, you know. And it's when things start to break down, it's only, you know, you only realize what you've got until it's gone. And so in a big way, that's what's happening with our legal system now. You know, we raged against the machine for so many decades because it was controlled by corrupt, you know, satanic pedos, and, you know, that was a righteous struggle, and it still is a righteous struggle, to, you know, to the extent that it's still in play, which it very much is. But we've also got to recognize that, again, after the revolution, the revolutionary is a conservative, and that after we abolish the system, there's still got to be a system. You know, after you dethrone the false god, you've got to come to terms with the true God and the true spirit of the universe, and stop trying to overlay your own opinions onto reality. Stop trying to pick everything apart and just breathe and find your center and witness reality as it exists, because what I have found is the more that I can do that, the more that I do that, is the more that I just witness the Creator in all of creation. I see the life and the consciousness in everything. Even the things that are evil, I see the spark in them. And again, it's all part of the lesson. It's all there so that I can conquer it, essentially. And to conquer it in the name of the kingdom of heaven, and to bring that down into this physical plane is very rewarding on a very fundamental level. The creation of my children, they are, the residents of the kingdom of heaven. My work that I perform every day, I'm putting bricks in the wall of the castle of heaven. It's all very much important, and it brings me great happiness. Do I have ups and downs? Again, absolutely. And I think that any definition of happiness that doesn't incorporate that is not a definition of happiness at all. It's a definition, maybe a robot's definition of happiness. Of 0, 1, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, alpha, like condition happy, like it's, what is that? Maybe in LA that makes sense, but that's what I love about the northern parts of California, and especially the red counties, is that people don't have to put on that happy face, but they genuinely have a deeper sense of contentment. Again, not everybody, but in general, to me, in order to know the Creator, you have to witness creation. You have to be engaged with this natural world, and my Christianity that I subscribe to is very much in line with Druidism and appreciation of all the subdomains of the Creator, right? And all the spirits that indwell within. So, and I think it's, I don't necessarily know off the top of my hand the precise etymology of the word happy, but I think it's interesting that the word happen, happening, and happiness are very similar. And a person who is happy, has things happening to them and for them. A person who is not happy is a person for whom things are not happening, right? To them or for them. And so, but ultimately, who bears responsibility for things happening to us? Is it all God? Do we just, regale ourselves and negate ourselves and just, say that God is everything and we don't exist? I think that ultimately we bear responsibility. We were given that free will by the Creator, and we bear responsibility for the happenings that happen to us, and thus our own happiness. And our happiness is impinged upon by the physical body, and the spiritual condition. So, you have to address the whole thing. Become healthy in your body. Treat your cells as if you were a benevolent deity, and give them what they need, including proper challenges. Exercise is giving your cells proper challenges, training the tissues and the muscles and the organs to perform their function in ever greater form. That is what we are doing in the human scale, and we are all cells of the Creator. So make things happen in your life and you will be happy. And if you align yourself with the structure of the universe, you will ride that wave. You don't have to paddle yourself across the Pacific Ocean. You can ride the winds. You can take the sails out, and you can just keep on flying without any, physical efforts to propel you really at all, because you are moving on a greater level and you are basically riding the etheric winds. And so that's my video today. I hope you guys got something out of it. If you like it, hit the thumbs up and share it, and I'll see you next time. Cheers.
Ah.